of the presentation, we'll have some special offers for the people that are tuning in today as well. So obviously, it's a crisis in California. There's been an issue for the past few years. How did we get here? It started back in 1988. It's not a recent problem, going back to Prop 103. And some of the limitations that have put in place here, as far as availability to get rate and form, that would make insurance companies profitable. And then on top of that, we have the larger, more severe fires causing billions of dollars in losses. That in turn has driven the reinsurance costs up that is outpacing what insurers can charge as far as rate. Insurance companies faced with continuing and projected loss of profits stopped issuing policies altogether or moved to a non-admitted space on that end. So the options are left. You're probably more familiar than anyone. California Fair Plan is an option, but it's becoming overloaded. If you look at the chart on the right, you can see the TIV as far as exposed from 2018 to 2023 and what that looks like. And that is a scary exposure. And obviously with what's going on the admitted side, they have to back that up if we do have a catastrophic event for those policies. So that gets in a little bit uncharted territory right there. Then obviously, non-admitted lines are picking up the slack as far as policies. This chart's only back to 2021. I would guess that's closer to 17% now as far as what non-admitted policies are being written in California. And then the admitted carriers that are sticking around are putting strict requirements on homeowners insurance. We know for a fact that farmers insurance is actually requiring the IBHS Wildfire Prepared Home Standard, which is pretty strict as far as what can be done around the property. And real quick, we'll just kind of cover some of those items. Class A roof, obviously, California, that's a pretty easy done and done. Ember and flame resistant vents. The 6 inches of vertical clearance, that's a little bit of a tough one depending on where the home was built. There may be a retrofit needed on that. But the big one is the non-combustible zone, that 0 to 5 foot zone. And on IBHS standards, that means nothing. You can't have trash can, car, hot tub, anything in that space, no vegetation. So it's a bit of a challenge for homeowners to really grasp what that looks like. On the left, we have the old standard as far as, it had good clearance 100 foot away from the home, but up close, they still allowed bark mulch, Italian cypress, all your bushes right against the home. But what we've learned over and over again is that 0 to 5 foot zone is a critical area that homes are lost in. Time and time again, that's the critical area. We need to kind of maintain that. So IBHS has taken the standard with a non-combustible zone in that area. And I think we're going to see companies follow suit, either from a requirement standpoint or how they're going to provide discounts. The new CDI kind of regulations requiring admitted carriers to provide that discount for those mitigation measures kind of line up with what IBHS is doing. In addition to that, we're going to have state regulations coming down the pipeline in 2025 for new construction, and then 2026 for retrofit as far as that non-combustible 0 to 5 foot zone. Non-admitted is a little bit more flexible in what's being required and what's not. Sometimes they're requiring gutter guards, but they're not really providing discounts like what has to be done on the admitted side. On the Fair Plan, it's interesting that they have the discounts available. However, you have to do all those mitigation measures in place to be eligible for a discount. And one of the biggies on there is enclosing the eaves, which is a substantial cost to a homeowner as far as enclosing the eaves. And at the end of the day, that it's going to vary on the property, whether that's justifiable action as far as it's really going to save the home, your predictive versus performance on that kind of mitigation measure. So when we roll these out to clients, the challenge is always objections. What kind of objections are we going to face? When the client says my house is less than a mile from the fire station. So up here at the top, the red dot up there, that's LA County Fire Station 71 in Malibu. They actually have two fire engines. Most fire stations generally just have the one truck. They have a normal type 1 engine and a small little patrol truck there. These people thought they were protected. So in the 2018 Woolsey fire, all these red X's here are homes that were lost. And this is within a half mile of that fire station. So 25 homes within that station. So it's, the perception versus reality. There's just not enough fire trucks to go put out fires at all these homes. When the client says, I've lived here for 30 years and we've never had a wildfire near here. So if you look at the top 10 most destructive wildfires by structures lost, a lot of them are pretty recent. They all had fires that burned in fuels that are greater than 35 years old, sometimes all the way back to 7,500-year-old fuels. Those type of fuels, they burn with much more intensity, produce a lot more embers, a longer duration. And then within those areas as well, with the native fuels, what people have planted around their homes for all those years, and the vegetation that's grown up around there. So if you look at the Woolsey fire that's on there, it's the same kind of time frames, 36, 40, 48 years or further than that. So on Point Doom, where we just showed that previous photo, there had been no fire on there between 75 and 100 years. And it comes down to complacency and what people expect in fire behavior. So when a client says my landscaping is always watered and green, this is a big one that we hear all the time. And, people said, well, everything's vegetative, everything's green and water. We don't have to really worry about it because it's not going to burn. And the reality is that any vegetation will burn under the right conditions. So, and depending on the vegetation, obviously it's going to be much more intense. Our Italian cypress, we should be pretty familiar with these and how they burn. And these have the added bonus of having the dead material that's stored inside. So this was actually a bottle rocket that got into one of the cypress and it caught each one in sequence on fire and nearly burned this home down. So you can imagine a wildfire, what kind of ratio you'd have on saving that home if that fire had involved right there next to the home. There's just not enough fire trucks that are going to be around. So policyholders have a role to play in the insurance solution. At this point in time, they need to be more involved and more active in the mitigation features. They can no longer rely on, well, if this carrier is just going to drop me to make me do this mitigation, I'm going to go somewhere else. And it's just not an option right now. They have to be involved in as far as protecting themselves and keeping their insurance. So how we help out is doing a number of wildfire solutions. Starts off with the risk assessments, home hardening solutions, vegetation management, long-term fire retardant application, wildfire monitoring, and evacuation plans. So I'm sure you've had a lot of homes referred to underwriter, send them a satellite photo. Hey, is this home safe or not safe? And depending on what they come back with. And if you look at the home in the center here, I mean, it's a ton of concrete around it. The exposure down below the house is pretty minimal. Lots of rocky fuels and sparse grasses, not that much threat to the home as somebody would be looking at it from an underwriting standpoint. So as it happened, a fire generated the fuels behind the home. You can still see pretty light grasses, small brush, kind of creeping up the hill there. But as it gets up into the planted juniper bush, it really starts to take off. Now you notice they had to run this hose all the way around the second structure. They couldn't come down the other driveway because the gate was locked. So they have to slow down, add another stick of hose, another 100 feet of hose to be able to extend out to get to this fuel that's burning close to the house. And you see that always takes a little bit of time. I mean, they're doing a pretty good job moving along, but you can see how much heat this juniper bush is already putting off. And this is 40 feet from the home, which is within, current California wildfire codes. It's in compliance. So as it gets closer, you'll notice that this siding of the home is vinyl. And with the radiant heat that is coming off the juniper bush, it's starting to melt off and fall off. So he's having to alternate going back from the bush to the home to try to cool it down, keep the exposure down in the home, keep the windows from shattering from the radiant heat as well, to keep this home from burning to the ground. So these homeowners probably thought they were safe, probably safe assumption from underwriting standpoint. But that's where, it comes into the evaluation from the firefighters. So all our wildfire inspectors are experienced wildfires specialists, 20 years in the field at dealing with fires just like that. They know how the fuels burn. They know how the home is in relationship to the fuel. They know the fuel types that burn strong, a lot more intense. So when you're evaluating risk, it's much better to have somebody that has experience in the background. On top of that, we partners with IBHS for their wildfire prepared home. So we're certified to sign off on these designations for homeowners to better protect their homes. And we step them through the process all the way to the end. And that helps them keep their insurance. Like I said, Farmers Insurance is mandating the wildfire prepared home designation. We can help them through that process, get the designation. And so far, we've done that for 9 homeowners to be able to keep their insurance. So another area we could take a look at as wildfire specialists as well. You look at this home, this is in Laguna Niguel. Big old row of Italian cypress in between these homes. Well, the insurance company made them cut down the cypress, but didn't have them do anything for their vents. All these homes had 1/4-inch mesh screening that allowed embers into the attic space to burn the homes from the inside out. 21 homes in here, and this was the coastal fire in Laguna Niguel. 21 homes burned from the inside out. If you look closely, those cypress aren't there anymore. So that wasn't a problem. None of the vegetation on the properties are burning. It was all embers getting into the vents. So the solution we provide is a home hardening solution. We provide ember resistant vent installs and gutter guards to prevent leak buildup in those gutters that's susceptible for embers to land in there to get ignited and carry fire under a roof. While we're doing the inspection, we're also looking for the number of vents, the type of vents they have, measuring for gutter guards. So it's sort of your one-stop shop where we can build into our report quote to actually do the home hardening itself. You see here, this from IBHS, embers cause 75% or more of all structural losses during wildfire. We've heard as high as 90%. I was joking with Rich that it's probably going to be 130% next year because they just keep going up and up and up. But it is the #1 cause of structural loss. If you look closely on this home here, the garage doors are actually open. And this happens a lot on wildfires. Fires that have been on the past, there's almost always 2 or 3 homes we're running across where there's windows open, garage doors open, people leave in a hurry. And it leaves them very, very vulnerable to embers getting inside. And you can already see the bark mulch by the home catching fire, the palm trees catching on fire. And it's most likely this home did not survive. So we talk about the importance of the 0 to 5 foot zone. And this is a good demonstration on how you can mitigate that area where you see stone next to the home on the right with a metal fence. As soon as the flames hit those non-combustible items, it just peters out. On the left, you have the wood fence carrying fire all the way to the siding, bark mulch carrying fire all the way to the vegetation, and like it's going to go up. And why we show this, and that why IBHS has such that strict standard, is they're making these homes as resilient as possible for no firefighter interdiction. They're counting on nobody being there to protect the home, which is mostly the reality on those fires. There's not enough fire trucks to be able to put every fire out. You want to make sure the home's going to stay on its own. And I can tell you, on the Woolsey fire, we came across properties where the bark mulch was still burning 7 days, 8 days after the fire had already passed, and it was just creeping up to the home, creeping up the vegetation. So vegetation management is obviously important. It's protecting your home by the zone, and that most critical zone being the 0 to 5 foot zone around the home. You want that non-combustible. You want embers, if they land there, not have anything to catch fire to carry it to your home. And that's where our prevention specialists will detail out a report to treat those certain areas. So these are some more stats from IBHS. Reducing the vegetation to 0 to 5 foot zone nearly doubles a property's wildfire survival rate. And the homes with heavy vegetation within 10 feet have 115% high wildfire claim frequency, 272% higher loss ratio. So that certain area is the most critical area. It used to be, as long as your brush was cleared out to 100 foot, that was the gold standard. But we were still losing homes, and this is the science behind it. And what we've seen in the field actually backs it up. So beyond the vegetation management, the home hardening, what we've done to better protect those properties, we could also apply long-term fire retardant. This is a spray that Rich was involved with in Montebello at Ray Park prior to 4th of July. Where they sprayed Phos-Chek down around the brush and along the drainage. And a month later, there was a little homeless fire that was right there, right where they had sprayed. It was a little 2x2 area that was actually putting itself out by the time firefighters arrived there. So that's another solution that can be provided to better protect properties beyond their normal vegetation management, out beyond their property lines, being able to spray long-term fire retardant. That's the same stuff that's been dropped from airplanes for decades. And the way it goes on in this product, and it goes on clear. So you don't see the red dye at all. So here's some examples of what it looks like for evacuation. On the left side is the Woolsey fire. This is a line of cars trying to exit east out of Malibu, east and south, trying to get out of there as the fire rages north. And this dead stop. They couldn't get out. They had too many people. They didn't open the other lanes to traffic to get out. And these people were actually stuck for quite a while before they could get out. On the right is the campfire. And we all know that did not end up well as far as that traffic jam. And what's the note here is that's about 11 o'clock in the morning on that picture on the right. And the same as on the Woolsey fire. If you look further up in the picture, that's exactly what it looks like underneath that black cloud. It looks like pitch black, middle of night, smoke all around. Very difficult situation to get out of. So we help provide solutions with the wildfire monitoring to let people know, give them text messages ahead of time, let them know that they're going to be under evacuation, tips they can do to prepare. If it's pre-evacuation, they have time, give them tips on how to better prepare their home as far as pulling in any combustibles like their doormats, patio cushions. Even though the home's not impacted by flames and embers, they're still going to sit and ash damage. And we know in this time, one less claim you have to file, the better off you are keeping your insurance and getting insurance down the line. So just little things like that to help them guide their way. And part of that is also is building this evacuation plan to have in place before that happens. So this is based off the Ready, Set, Go program. It's nothing really new, but we tailor it for a few different evacuation routes, specifically for the client, evacuation checklist, everything the client needs to know to be able to better prepare themselves and their family for evacuation. They can do these themselves, but they generally don't. And this is something else we could provide to help them not be in that situation that we saw in the previous slides. So I'm gonna hold up right here and do a quick poll. And then if you guys have any questions at this time, you can put them in the Q&A as well. So based on what we saw in there, what's the number one cause of structure loss during wildfire? Large flames, radiant heat, embers. Good, it's good. A lot of answers coming in. Good deal. I think I threw a curveball in there with the video that had radiant heat, but most everybody got the correct answer with the embers being the number one cause of structural loss. Does anybody have any questions at this time before we move along? All right. So as I mentioned before, we want to be the solution in all risk mitigation measures. Wildfire isn't the only risk to homes. There's water damage, electrical fires, seismic threats, and more. And there's solutions for those as well. Right. So, as most people in the insurance industry know, water loss is actually the number one loss. It's not wildfire or structure fire. It's always water loss is the big ones. That's something I learned at AIG really quick. As far as the large loss calls we'd have, it's always some kind of water loss. But as big as that loss is, homeowners are not really prepared for it. They're not really thinking about it. So it's kind of our job to bring that awareness to people and what we can do about it. 17% of the homeowners listed as a non-event, yet they're 7 times more likely to sustain the damage from water than fire. 35% have burglar alarms in their house, double those who have actually a water sensor. And 68% of people are not even aware of what a water sensor is. And then you look at some of the other stats of what other people have for mitigation and loss, the smoke detectors, fire alarms, security cameras. However, only 17% have water sensors, but they don't really understand the risk to it. Now, of course, the biggest driver to get people to install is always a discount. No matter how much money a person makes, they're always looking for that discount. So 53% of them said that they'd be willing to do it with a discount. And 28% said they would install a device that was recommended by a plumber. But we want to be out in front of that and help people, make that best decision on how to better protect their property. And that's done with the automatic water shutoff devices. There's a few different kinds out here. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, but we can provide the solution that best fits the client. We're pretty much solution agnostic. We're not married to one type or another. However, the flow logic is a little bit better option for us as far as you're able to set up notifications for multiple people on that network. And that way we could actually be involved as far as our restoration side of the company is. We can actually be able to send an EMS team out if we get notified of any kind of water leak to help mitigate that damage before it becomes much, much worse. So a lot of solutions here on the water loss side. It's very, very helpful for homeowners to actually get involved in doing this now. So earthquakes, it's another big one out here in California, and Oregon starting to look at that as a big risk as well. Washington, 94 Northridge earthquake. I remember this well. I was here in California for this, so it was definitely on my mind. So 172 mobile homes were destroyed from ruptured gas lines, and you look at the picture on the right, and it looks like a wildfire damage because it went structure to structure once one ignited. But the interesting fact is SoCal Gas responded to 841 seismic shutoff valves that have been tripped, and they detected gas leaks at 162 of those locations. Now that's, a high chance of those homes, if the seismic shutoff didn't get tripped, they could have had a fire loss there or caused more damage within the city. And those fires raged on for a couple of days there in Northridge. And then the year after that, the Kobe earthquake in Japan, fires from gas lines ruptured there. They had very close structure density, a lot of wood siding, and it went structure to structure and wiped out half square mile of the city as far as losses. So very, very bad thing to have those gas lines kind of unprotected, especially when you have a device as simple as the earthquake shutoff valve. Easy to install devices that our team can install for homeowners. They're tripped with a 5.4 earthquake or greater. That shuts off the gas to the home, kind of eliminating that or minimizing that risk of fire loss to that home or even multiple homes if it gets going. So electrical fires, that's another big loss to homes. They're estimated for 51,000 fires each year, with nearly 500 deaths, more than 1,400 injuries, and $1.3 billion in property damage. Now, even though that the cooking fires are far more common, you see those quite a bit. Electrical fires will cause more damage. Generally, they're starting up in the attic space that impacts the roof. They're behind the walls and cause a lot more damage throughout the house as opposed to cooking fires. So the Ting device, it's a smart sensor that we can install and monitors the electrical system to assist in reducing the risk of electrical fire. It looks for any anomalies throughout the system, detects them. The homeowner could get an alert as far as what the risk is. They're notified by the Ting Fire Smart team, and they can step them through any type of process they need to do, whether they need to have an electrician come out, they can help with that process. If they need utilities contacted, they can help them step through that process as well. So very handy device. And also, if there's any kind of loss tied to the electrical system with the Ting device, they'll pay for a $1,000 credit towards any remediation. So very impactful product to have in this day and age. Homes have been, especially older homes, have been worked on time and time again. There's a lot of kind of weird stuff going on in the ag space that maybe not looked at very closely. So it's a good item to have. So should you have a loss, let's say you have an electrical loss, it takes, burns inside the structure. Are you covered for your contents? 47% of the homeowners say they prepare to inventory the possessions to help document losses for the insurers. I know a lot of people don't always document all their property. I can tell you, I was evacuated during the Woolsey fire, and about a month later, I went through my photos on my phone and found all these random pictures inside my house that I didn't remember taking as I was being evacuated. So, um, thinking about documenting that stuff, should you have a claim, and part of that as well is finding out if you're underinsured or not. You may not have up-to-date documentation. So how do we solve that? Um, we provide 3D mapping for the home as far as structure contents to be able to have, should they have a claim, be able to have a blueprint of what exactly is in the house and where it was, be able to document and provide to the carrier to support the claim. It's a great peace of mind. Something I wish I would have done, kind of ahead of time. And there'll be that documentation is stored off site. You don't have to worry about that. We also provide aerial imagery for the property itself during this assessment. So along with wildfires causing power shutoffs, the electric companies are now being preemptive as far as shutoffs to protect against starting new wildfires. And it's all up and down California, and it's starting in other states as well. So how do you protect against that? When you think about what happens when the power is out around your home, especially for extended time, the main thing that's a concern is the refrigerators, freezers, as we've been keyed into as well as wine cellars. People with large collections, if they don't have backup power to keep those temperature controls correct for those large wine collections, they can be impacted. So coming up with a generator solution for properties for number one, peace of mind, and then number two, to prevent any claims. I mentioned the refrigerators. If you have an ice maker in the door and that's even out for a day, all that ice melts, it runs out the drip tray and right onto wood floor, and then you'll have a claim on wood floor as well. So it's about prevention, and especially this day and age when there's threats from power shutoff, wildfires, electrical grid attacks is something we've been hearing about lately. It's having this kind of peace of mind. I can speak from experience, and OP can as well. We experienced the same Thanksgiving in 2021 where we had family in town. There was a power shutoff, and we had to deal with that kind of stress while the family was in town. I learned how to cook a turkey on the grill. Turned out great. Now my wife expects me to do it all the time, but yeah, it would be a lot easier if we'd had a backup power. So our crews that provide these services, they have over 250 years of experience, come from various departments all across the Southland here. And they make up our team that provides these services for wildfire and risk mitigation solutions. This is the area we currently work in. It's Ventura County down to San Diego County, the greater Southland area. With limited services in the San Francisco Bay Area and limited services in Colorado as well as far as wildfire inspections. But we're looking to expand out for sure. And I'll let OP talk about that as soon as we wrap up here. In the meantime, if you have any questions, definitely drop them in the Q&A and we can help answer any questions for you. And we also have this for you guys to scan QR code for our website to learn more about our other services. And then OP does all things wildfire podcasts, where he has insurance specialists, wildfire specialists, anybody that's related to wildfire issues or any kind of risk mitigation issues. Very informative podcasts to tune into and learn more about and what's happening here in California for sure.
Yeah, I'll just add, That podcast has a lot of information. We recently interviewed a survivor from the Lahaina fire, which is a very powerful story that she told. And you know, when we all think about the Lahaina fire, and we've seen this house, the White House with the red roof that survived. It's really a testament to what those homeowners did in keeping the vegetation away from their home, and some of the things that we need to be doing here. And more than ever now, we're seeing a lot more willingness in cooperation from insureds, where they realize that having insurance is no longer a commodity, but they realize they have to participate in mitigating their risk in order to be as attractive as possible for underwriters to really provide the extension of coverage. So another thing that I'm seeing is that homeowners are asking 2 and 3 times, considering whether they should file a claim or not, which is amazing and powerful because it does also minimize the amount of claims that are taking place, because they're also aware that they want to still be insurable afterwards. So a lot of this is taking place right now, and I think this environment, with the rates going up and with the difficulties of getting insurance, is really creating an effect of cooperation and willingness to do what the carriers want to do. It's still not easy, but there's a lot more cooperation going on.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's been a sea change, especially since when I started with AIG, as far as what homeowners were willing to do, and a lot of times they pushed it off. That the slides I had with the objections, I could probably add like another 5 slides to that. Saying why we don't need to do those type of mitigation actions, but I think they realize now that they're no longer in that position where they can just go shop around insurance somewhere else. And they definitely don't want to have a claim. So it's become an investment standpoint to better protect their home and keep their insurance for sure.
And one of the things I'll add, Mike, is one of the things we wanted to contribute to all the listeners is, if you have a home here in the Southern California area, your own personal home, and you would like to have a wildfire assessment, we are willing to go out to your property at zero cost to give you a report that really just kind of lets you know what's the risk level for your home with regards to wildfire. And really, we take a scientific approach as to the conditions and the vulnerabilities of your particular home. So please take us up on that. Reach out to Mike and let us know that you're interested. The other second offer we'd like to make is, if you refer us to any one of your clients at time of renewal or getting close to renewal, where they want this assessment, we're glad to go out there and provide a 10% discount to homeowners that actually do some of this work, whether it's ember-resistant events, vegetation management, gutter guards, or spraying of long-term fire retardant. We will extend a discount to your clients as well. And Mike, I'm not sure if you may have covered it, but the assessments are $500. But if the homeowner decides to make an investment to do some of the work, that $500 gets applied to that work. So it's essentially for free if they end up doing some of this work with us as well. So we're glad to be of assistance to help your homeowners become more insurable, and help the underwriters make some better decisions.
Yeah, thank you, OP, and I really appreciate everybody's time here. And if you have any questions down the line, feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help. We want to help solve this issue, provide our services any way we can to better protect homeowners and keep their insurance. And the thing to realize is, I did see that somebody is on this call from out of state, is that what's happening here in California is definitely going to resonate in other states, as far as some of the mitigation actions that are going to be required down the line. I know IBHS is targeting Colorado, and Oregon is two of their next places to do the wildfire prepared home program, to roll it out. So we're definitely gonna be trying to help solve this issue here. Can we get a copy of this presentation? I'll have a modified one. May not have the videos and all that in there, but this is actually being recorded, and then will be on our website as well to view. So that will be available as well. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Thank you again for your time. Really hope you could take some away from this. Like I said, this will be available online. You'll get a notice out as when it's available, and be able to view it anytime too. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.